10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh, glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio, terrestrial radio. We're also streaming live. Let me reverse this thing here. Streaming live at cklu.ca. And we're glad to be here with you. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app on cklu.ca and you can stream us. If you download the same Radio Player Canada app, you can take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. And we're also streaming live video and audio on facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow the channel and the page. Mainly comment. We'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching, read for those listening. We're also found on demand afterwards on those two platforms, along with x.com/Sudbury News. So with that, if you missed the show, you can catch us on demand on all three of those platforms. The conversation, however, usually only continues on Facebook. So if you have something that you wanted to share, going along with whatever we're talking about, and today we're going to be talking about the election, because the election, the deadline to vote and the actual voting date, the official voting date, is today, April the 28th. And it's also not only election day, which is huge for Canada, probably the most important election that we've ever had in Canada's history, many are saying. It's also my daughter's birthday. So my oldest daughter, Katrina, she turns 25 today. And so I'd just like to give a birthday shout out to her. Happy birthday, Katrina. And it's a great day. The elections happen to be on your birthday. So I'll always remember this day because it's such an important day. But it's mostly important because it's your birthday. Like, sure, an election, the most important election in Canada's history, but it's more important that it's your birthday today. I can't believe it's been 25 years. You're a quarter of a century old. So that's pretty fantastic. We'll try and get some local headlines as far as it pertains to the election from our news aggregator, Sudbury.news. And then we will dive into, some of the larger principles that are, going on as it pertains to the election. A lot of people still not sure who they're going to vote for. I know that. There's a lot of people out there who know they're going to vote for, who've already voted. That doesn't matter what anyone's going to say. Either way, they're going to vote for their person. But there's a good amount of people I know that are going to be standing in that line, still wondering, who they're going to vote for. And a lot of people, it's sad, but don't realize, once they get there, it's their first time voting or whatever, or they don't vote very often, or they forget the last time they voted, how it went. They'll be surprised to see that Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre or any of the other leaders aren't on the ballot. And they're like, well, I wanted to vote for such and such and so. But there's names they may or may not recognize on there, local names. And they're like, well, who's the, why? And again, there's just some simple things like that a lot of people don't understand. And it's unfortunate. I just wish there was something in our culture that would explain things a lot clearer. And we'll try and do that to some extent to the media is partly to blame for this, because the media seems to want a certain party in power, and you can just see that through their reporting. And they try to say that they're unbiased, but we've shown time and time again on the show that people just know, they just sense, a lot of people sense that something's up. They're not unbiased. And I'm not the only one. I've talked to many, many people who feel the exact same way as me. And we've gone out and tried to show that by examples in the media, and we showed many of them, and we'll continue to show that. But the media is not unbiased. The media has been year after year weeding out by whatever means anyone who thinks differently politically than the majority. And so it's become a very far left occupation to be a journalist in mainstream media in Canada and largely the US as well. And so the reporting that's done comes from that lens. And someone who is on the far left won't recognize it. They think that's unbiased reporting because it speaks to them. It's normal for them to hear people be victimized and what's the word I'm looking for? When you're putting down the other side and name calling and things like that, you're putting people in a bucket, in a box, like we talked about anti-vaxxers. We saw that former CBC person be in the war room, so to speak, and they said, we're going to call people who are a little bit leery about going along with the experimental solution to the problem we had a few years ago, and they demonized them, that's the word I was looking for being leery about that, and called them anti-vaxxers. They gave them a title. They gave them a very, a title that puts them down, first of all, and puts them in a box, and it isn't exactly what is really going on. But so the media is guilty of doing things like that, and media shouldn't do that. And unbiased media shouldn't be calling anybody anything. They shouldn't take a stand on where they think, they fired someone for saying these people, but that yet they come out and say these people all the time and give them names and put them in categories and yeah, so it's a very interesting time we live in, but we will see today what we're going to end up with after. Oh, we might not even know today. The way elections have been going, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't know for a few days what's going on. And there's been some tragedies happening too. Just yesterday, late yesterday and yesterday, there's been a ferry that hit a sandbar, and there's casualties in Ontario. There's been a Filipino celebration where someone drove into the crowd, killing people just in the last day. So there's been some things going on which are really strange, the timing of them. So we'll just see. We'll see when we get the results of this election. They should be, if everything was just done properly, we should have it by tonight. But we'll see. We don't know. So we'll just dive into a little bit of weather. We'll get on with the show. We'll dive into, this election. We'll get your comments. We'll get some news headlines. It'll be a great show. I promise, or your money back. We'll be back right after this. And weather brought to you by Voyager Tire. Visit them online at voyagertire.com. Let them know we sent you when you go in, if you go in, and you'll get a 10% discount. So currently it is 6 degrees. It's mostly cloudy. Today we can expect clearing. The wind will be coming from the south and will be gusting up to 50 kilometers per hour. We'll have a high of 16. Increasing cloudiness tonight with a 40% chance of showers late this evening and overnight. Showers beginning before morning. A risk of thunderstorms before morning. And the low will be 11 overnight. The winds will be gusting up to 60 kilometers tonight. So windy, possible thunderstorms. And then tomorrow, showers, a risk of thunderstorm in the morning. 10 to 20 millimeters. Not good news for us. Our water table is up very high, and we're hoping that we'd have no more rain or moisture. It's causing havoc in our place, but it is what it is. That's for tomorrow. So tomorrow, showers and a high of 18. Wednesday, sunny, high of 12. Then Thursday, cloudy with 12 degrees, your high. 30% chance of showers again on Friday with a high of 10. And also 30% chance of showers on Saturday with a high of 12. And then sunny on Sunday, high of 11. Look at your satellite. You can just see a lot of clouds all over Ontario with some precipitation in various places. Apologize for those on the radio, just trying to describe what a satellite image looks like of Ontario. And that's your weather, brought to you by Voyager Tire. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Welcome back this beautiful Monday, April the 28th, Election Day, Katrina's birthday. It's a special day no matter how you package it up. Northern Hillbilly, good morning to you. You're saying Yuri Bezmenov, communism, socialism, capitalism, dollar inflation, COVID vaccines, mandates, lockdowns, NPC. Well, there you go. Do we need to say any more? And Nancy, good morning to you. Judy, also good morning. Monique, good morning, Sudbury. And Vin, good morning to you as well. Hazel, good morning. Prayer emoji, prayers always. We can't get enough of them, especially these days. I would encourage everybody, if you haven't tried, to start, because only good things can happen. Also, today is your last chance to vote. This is Trevor, April 28th, 2025. If you got a friend or family that don't want to vote, don't care to vote, or just don't know who to vote for, drag their apathetic arse off the couch for an hour and get them to a voting booth. Buy them a beer afterwards. Do whatever you can. Evil triumphs when good men do nothing. And you got the sword, shield, and Canada emoji there. We stand on guard for thee. Thank you very much, Trevor. And yes, get out and vote, everybody. Blessings, everyone. Heart emoji. My daughter is so funny. Not my daughter it's her birthday today. My other daughter. She says, I said, well, you're going to get out and vote today? She said, no, I don't think it matters anyways. I don't think it's going to do anything. And so she's very pessimistic and about the process. She's young. She's going to be 21. And she's very leery about, even if she did vote, what happens afterwards, right? So she's not alone in that. There are many people who don't trust, and that's unfortunate, who don't trust the system, and we'll see after today. And it goes both ways. Don't say only one way, because you just take the example of the United States. When Hillary Clinton lost, she said things were done behind the scenes, and she said something was wrong and she lost and whatever. And then when that's when Donald Trump won. When Donald Trump lost, you also saw the same thing on the other side. So it's not just one side it's usually when your person loses, that's when you start saying something is wrong. However, it doesn't take away from the fact that we need to make sure that elections are done properly and that actual votes, are tallied properly, and that we adhere to the strictest standards to make sure what the people's voices are actually calling for is actually done. It just is what it is, right? So good morning, Belinda. Truth can't be hidden forever. You weren't born to be afraid of the storm. You came to guide others through it. Our strength is unity. Well, that's definitely a rallying cry, and for sure, don't worry if it's stormy out there. Rise up and be a leader, and put on your big boy pants or whatever, and rise to the occasion and help others. Sometimes instead of complaining about the circumstance, get out there and do something about it. Marianne, good morning, everyone from Barrie. Hand clap emoji. The voting day is upon us. Get out and have your say. That's Marianne. Liked and shared as usual. And a lot of happy birthdays to Katrina this morning. I hope if she watches this on demand, she'll see everybody wishing her happy birthday. Good morning to Betty from Niagara. Voted last week. Bring a pen. Bring a pen. And that's another thing. What's this? What's about this pen thing with, people, I guess what? Are people erasing people's votes and putting something else? I mean, to me, that'd be a lot of work to do or whatever. And another thing too, I just saw a video yesterday. Someone sent it to me about somebody complaining that they actually take the boxes home, which they do, which I don't agree with. So you know how we had early voting? Well, the supervisors actually take the boxes home with them and then bring them back for today. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it's true. It's not a conspiracy theory. I don't know if you have a problem with that. I do. I don't think people should be taking these boxes home with everyone's ballots in them. Is it just me? I don't know. I just don't think that's proper. And Betty, happy birthday to Katrina. Also Belinda, all these happy birthdays. Much appreciated for my daughter. Glad the election is today. So tired of hearing about it. Yeah, I hear you. But you're going to hear about it one more time from us. I apologize, Judy. I really do. And a lot of happy birthdays coming in for Katrina and Nana. Good morning. Blessings to all. And I'm just getting the happy birthdays up on the screen for Katrina to see when she sees the show. And good morning. Returning officers took advanced voting ballots boxes home. Yes, that was Miles who sent me that yesterday. It may be a problem of election security and integrity. I agree with you. And I knew that before you sent me that video because one of my colleagues is actually a supervisor, and he told me that that's what they do. They take the boxes home. He particularly, didn't see any problem with that. He said the boxes are sealed or something along those lines or whatever. But just the idea of doing that, it's avoid the very appearance of evil so that way people can have trust in the election process, right? Liette, good morning. Hand clap emoji from Collingwood. Good morning, Liette. And yes, Marianne shared that video as well. And it's something I don't really think is going to help with people's trust in our election process for sure. Some more happy birthdays, shout outs for my daughter. I'm taking my senior neighbors to vote. Hey, well, that's great, Marianne. That's awesome. Yeah, get your neighbors out to vote, especially if they're not able to do so by themselves. And so Northern Hillbillies voting for Mad Max from the PPC. Don't love WFUN diversification agenda. There you go. So that's who you're voting for, and gaining a lot of momentum, by the way, over the last little while. And Liette, the media is the root of all problems. Betrayal in the highest form. That's Liette. And good morning, Pat. And Betty says, think everyone has an opinion, and that's okay. And that is okay. We are all about everyone having their own opinion. Can you imagine if everyone was exactly the same? How boring of a world that would be. Name calling is childish for sure. I guess as I was talking, different people were commenting on did a little rant this morning, not a very long one. It is meant to dehumanize us and make us disposable. That's where the media puts everyone in categories and gives titles to people like anti-vaxxers or conspiracy theorists or you name it. Just they go on and demonize different groups of people and put them in a box rather than just saying, okay, well, what are they talking about? Let's see if there's some valid points that someone has to say, and then let people decide for themselves. That's not the kind of media we have. No, we can't have these types of people on, spreading this type of vitriol. Anyways, okay, so Liette, senior ladies in care homes were upset with election procedures, said it was election tampering. A video was posted. Oh, that's interesting. Wow. And they will most likely cheat. So Pat agrees with my youngest daughter there. Okay. And Marianne says, yes, saw that. Sad what has happened. And Northern Hillbilly says, gotta love diversity. Maybe we'll have more on everything we're all talking about a little bit later today. Sad weekend. Lots of innocent people dead. Yes, for sure. A couple tragedies going on or just happened. And David, good morning. Hopefully last day under communism. Okay. It's been going towards that, David. There's no doubt about it. It's been going there pretty fast towards that type of governance in our country. If people are aware of what that actually means, you'll be aware of that. And Marianne, apparently tomorrow, many are under a tornado warning. Oh, no. That's not good. I guess the thunderstorms up here, tornadoes in other areas, or possibly even here. I don't know. And volcanoes are also acting up, says Betty. Marianne, go to Ontario Stormwatch page. It's been a few days. They have been reporting it. So that's a tornado watch. So make sure to look for that, obviously. And Northern Hillbilly says, vote harder, everybody. Don't just vote harder. And Liette says, happy birthday. Yes, thank you for Katrina. Her one vote, my youngest daughter's vote, can make a difference. I told her that. I said, it's just the principle of it, if anything. But it's hard to change her mind. It would be really great if she had a podcast saying, change my mind, and she has an opinion. She's very staunch in her opinions. And they aren't elected, they are selected. Yeah, that's exactly what she would say too. This should be interesting going forward. I agree with that, Denise. And Monique is agreeing as well. And Lee, good morning to you. I recall learning the definition of our political parties thanks to teacher Terry LeBoeuf. In grade 5, St. Thomas. Matters sounded corrupt, and they still do. They all, today, not about the people. Wow. So Lee, I also had Terry LeBoeuf in grade 5 and grade 7 at St. Thomas School. So that's interesting. We have that in common. That's pretty interesting. And I talk about him often on the show. He's taught me more than any other teacher has taught me. And I'm sure you could say very much the same. And I remember, most of life's lessons came from his classes. And so shout out for Terry LeBoeuf. His brother, known for playing bass in, with many famous people, Celine Dion, Offenbach from Quebec, April Wine later there. So, his brother is famous in terms of the music industry, but anyone who's had Terry as a teacher knows he's equally, if not more famous for his teaching ability and things that he's helped his students with and changed all of our lives in so many positive ways. So thanks for that, Lee. And throw me a Facebook friend or whatever on Facebook. We probably know a lot of the same people. I'm not sure of our ages, but we're probably similar. And Denise, there should be a time cap how much time you're allowed to spend in Parliament. The longer they stay, the more corrupt they become. You know what? That's exactly right. It's true. In the States, you can only be president for 2 terms, 4 years. So 8 years is the longest you're going to stay as president. Now, I'm not sure about governors. I think they stay longer, and senators and all that. But as president, at least. But yeah, you're right. You should only stay so long. The gatekeepers, this is still Denise, still set up. Sorry, I go back. The gatekeepers still set. If this isn't rigged, I don't go to Ottawa to occupy. Community living, going to Ottawa doesn't help anything. Okay. I'm sorry for reading that discombobulated, but it is what it is. Oh, Michelle, it's you. Well, we're in the same class. Okay. You know, when people have aliases on the show, it's hard to to know who you were. Well, right on. Good morning, Michelle. Glad to see you on here. People for the people, because politicians are not. Yes, you are exactly right. And great to see you on, Michelle. Thank you so much for being on. And Pat, well, since they gave me a pencil to vote, I don't trust anyone with my ballot. And this is the thing. I thought we had pencils. I only remember pencils anytime I've ever voted. So in Sudbury, we always had those little wee tiny pencils, you know, those ones with no eraser on them. You get in the library or, you know, whatever. That's all I remember having to vote. So I like the idea of a pen anyways, like obviously, because, you know, it's harder if someone was going to tamper with it. It would be harder to do that. And why wouldn't we want to establish principles and things for voting that make it harder for any funny business to take place, right? We should be all over those types of things. Bring a pen and make sure to look over your vote for any kind of marks or writing on it. Demand a new vote. It's your right, because it can't become a rejected ballot. It can become a rejected ballot, so you got to look, I guess, for things that would make it a rejected ballot and ask for a new piece of paper. If you see any blemishes on yours, that they could, you know, discard it for some reason. And Denise says, Max is just there to divide the votes. Haven't heard a word from them all winter. Just it's time to vote. Just when it's time to vote. And possibly he doesn't get media attention, though, also, Denise, just to talk in his favor. The mainstream media don't include them in any of the debates. They don't talk about them in the media. He has to go on like independent podcasts and things like that. So I do see him on independent podcasts a lot, just in his defense or whatever. So he comes out every 4th year just for election time. And he could be. I don't know. I don't know the intentions of political parties and political leaders in the background. There's all kinds of things going on. It's political, right? So you never know what's going on. Did you know Mad Max lives in Florida full time and comes up for the election every 4 years? He's a rich elitist. Okay, there you go. I was not aware of that. I was not aware of that fact. And I don't knock him for living in Florida, by the way, or Arizona or whatever. It's beautiful weather, and it is what it is. But I guess if you're going to be a Canadian leader, you possibly should live in Canada more times, more than not. So demand a new ballot, not a new vote. Yeah, I got that for sure. I kind of deciphered that message. Okay, a couple other things, and then we're going to just move on here. Maybe we'll move on now. And yes, Michelle, you still have a connection with Terry. I've only had a few mild little interactions on Facebook. Actually, I know a few of our classmates have actually gone over to his place in Sault Ste. Marie and visited with him and had a really great visit with him. And so, I'll talk more about Terry LeBoeuf on the show, as I always do anyways, as any of the things he's taught us. The fact that I'm doing news, he had newspapers at the back of the class, and he had his own monetary system. His name is LeBoeuf, so the beef in French. So he had beef bucks, and if you did good things, you earned, some beef bucks. So he rewarded students for doing good things. And that was teaching you something in and of itself. And then you got beef bucks. And so for 10 beef bucks, if you accumulated 10 beef bucks, you could buy yourself 2 hours of just not having to do what the class was doing and go read some newspapers at the back of the class. So he had Sioux Star, North Bay Nugget, Sudbury Star, and a newspaper from Timmins, I think. And so he had all the Northern Ontario newspapers. He encouraged us to read the news and to know. He taught us the 5 W's and H of good reporting. Like, what teacher in grade 5 or grade 7 does that, you know? He had one earring. He had 3 earrings. Like, get this is back in the 80s, the mid 80s, early 80s. 3 earrings in one ear, all symbolizing 3 different newspapers. Like, again, he had one purple sock, one yellow sock. He'd wear the Rolling Stones T-shirt with his sports coat over it with jeans, you know, long hair. He had long hair, a beard, looked a little bit like Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And we were the first ones to have a computer in the whole city. Taught us computer. If we had enough beef bucks, we can get on the computer. And told us when CDs first came out, he came in and described the difference between record, cassette, and CD and why it sounds the way it does. Just again, like as a teacher, just incredible. Like, blow your mind. So again, thanks for bringing him up, Michelle, and good morning, Andrew. Thanks for being on. Okay, news headlines today from our news aggregators, Sudbury.news here in Sudbury. Election day marks. So we'll get Andrew's comment here. I got to multitask as usual on the show. Election day marks the end of a long, tiring road for campaign volunteers in Northern Ontario. This is from CBC. Political campaigns run on the sweat of party volunteers who put up signs, call supporters, and do whatever is needed to get their candidate elected. Yes, they're going to be very happy after today's done. They'll probably collapse for sure after today. What's at stake for Ontario in today's federal election? This is also from CBC. For 14 of the last 15 federal elections, the party taking most seats in Ontario has also formed government. Tonight, you'll learn whether that trend continues. So the party that wins Ontario wins Canada. That's also from, I believe, CBC. Sudbury Star. How to vote in the Sudbury area for the 2025 federal election. Sudbury area voters who have not yet cast a ballot will have one more chance on election day today as Canada chooses its next federal government. Polls will be open across the region to help decide key local races and the national outcome. Here's what Sudbury area voters need to know. So if you want to know more about that, you just click on the Sudbury Star article from our news aggregator, and that will definitely give you some insight into where to vote, how to vote, all those things. This is coming from Sudbury.com. Greater Sudbury federal candidates make their final pitches. So with election day today, Sudbury.com reached out to the 10 candidates running in the Sudbury and Sudbury East Manitoulin and Nickel Belt ridings for their final pitches to voters. So there, you just go to Sudbury.com. You can read all of those final pitches from our local candidates. And good morning, Diane. Thanks for being on. So yes, any more election-related headlines here? Just looking. So Pierre Poilievre was in town on Saturday, a Sudbury Saturday night. I know some of the people that are on the show today, I saw some of them live streaming. I think Monique, per se, along with some others, were there. And it looked like it was pretty vibrant, a big crowd at the Sudbury Airport. Good morning, Evelyn. Thanks for being with us this morning. And that was the third time within like 3 months Pierre Poilievre came here. Radisson before that, but he called this a whistle stop on his way through. And then I noticed that same day, Marc Serré, who's my former boss, by the way. We worked together. at Eastlink, and I know him very well just from working together, and we started hanging out for a bit, and I considered him a friend. We kind of lost touch as when he went into politics, and I don't know. To me, it seemed he became a different person. I've heard other people talk about that as well, who know him, and were kind of bemoaning the fact that the old Marc Serré is not around anymore. But anyways, Marvin, good morning to you. I noticed that Mark put up on his Facebook page a picture of him with leader Mark Carney the day that Pierre Poilievre was in town. And I said, Mark, where did you take this picture? Was it in Sudbury? Because I don't remember Mark coming to Sudbury. Mark Carney. Just to kind of make a little bit of a point that Pierre Poilievre came like 3 times in 3 months, and Mark Carney, he never came to Sudbury. So you'd think that he would want to support his local candidates here, but no, he hasn't come here. Jerome, good morning. Change in the air. Bye-bye, city. Oh, yeah, I guess you knew we were talking about Mark. And Scott, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. So, yeah, it's very interesting. And, people are very divided. We put the Sudbury.com poll up that showed that conservatives locally are ahead, and many people, who are liberal got very triggered by that poll and said it's not a real poll. It's a very small sample size. It's only 1.3% sample size. And I'm like, okay, Canada is 43 million people or so, and the polls, and then they would put up their polls showing that liberals are ahead, the national polls. I'm just showing a local poll. It's very simple. It's Sudbury.com readers online. They go there and they say, who are you voting for? And they put who they vote for, and then the results are there in real time. And people who I guess were going to vote liberal were very triggered by that and said it's only a small sample size. It's not true. They showed, one of them shared a PDF to me of how to do a survey, which I know how to do a survey. I've done many of them, and all of the things that go along with doing surveys. But again, it's so 1.3% of 43 million people. Any sample size of any of these national surveys are about the same. So I don't know why they were getting triggered from that or whatever. But anyways, it just goes to show that we're very divided. You're either going to vote one way or another, and then there's a few people in between that are undecided, or they don't really vote, they don't really pay attention. Actually, there's a lot of people like that, come to think of it. They don't really pay attention to much. They go to their close friends and say, who are you voting for? Because I'm not really sure. Who should I vote for? So, that's just the way it is, unfortunately, with a lot of people. And that's the way the leaders of our countries get decided, are just people that, not really sure who to vote for. But the media has such a huge influence, because these people who aren't really sure of who to vote for, these people, that's not a derogatory statement by me saying these people. Is just there's a certain amount of people out there who are undecided. So I'm referring to them as these people. Someone got canceled for saying these people, so I just want to say, just make sure I reference the fact that I'm not putting people down for being in that category of not knowing who to vote for. So Blender, just kind of sums that whole thing up about the media, and just be aware of what the media and how they can influence us. And, in Canada especially, we've made the argument that they just might be a lot of things that aren't all that true in the media, and you have to be aware of it. And so they do a good job of pointing that out. And again, Blender News, if you haven't really liked their page or whatever, they're really good at what they do. And again, they're independent media. They're not paid by the government, so they're able to hold government accountable.
I know a lot of Canadians out there are feeling stuck between what the media tells you and what you're seeing with your own eyes, and you're not alone. The mainstream media, funded through Liberal Party policies, have spent months trying to paint Canadian Conservatives like they're American Republicans, but it's just not true. If you're a moderate Canadian worried about your bills, your kid's future, or whether voting Conservative makes you a Trumper, let me explain why it's not only okay to vote for the Conservative Party in 2025, but why it's a practical, hopeful choice to get Canada back on track. First, let's talk about the political map. Canada's spectrum is very different. Our Liberals, with their love for universal healthcare and big social programs, are more progressive than the US Democrats. Our Conservatives, well, they're center-right at best, not the hard-right Republicans you see south of the border. In Canada, even the right supports universal healthcare, stricter gun laws, and a social safety net, things that Republicans would call socialist. Poilievre isn't pushing for private hospitals or open carry laws. He's talking about lower taxes, more homes, and safer streets. That's not MAGA, that's middle-of-the-road Canada. Again, I know the media is spreading scary stories about what Conservatives might do, so let's set the record straight on what's not happening under a Conservative government. First, abortion is safe. In Canada, abortion access is protected by the Supreme Court, not politicians. Poilievre's made it clear that he's not even trying to touch it. And our system doesn't let Parliament meddle in these affairs like in the US, so you're not voting for rollbacks here. Number two, LGBTQ rights are secure. Marriage equality, anti-discrimination laws, adoption rights, those are all settled. The only debate is about fairness in women's sports and women's spaces, which isn't about taking away rights, it's about balancing them, and I think most Canadians can see the nuance there. Number three, DEI isn't the same as civil rights. Conservatives might trim some government-mandated diversity quotas, but your charter rights to equality, to be yourself, they aren't going anywhere. This is about fairness, not division. Number four, immigration will continue. Conservatives are not closing the borders. They're proposing levels around 250,000 people a year, like we had under Trudeau's first term, or Harper's government, or the decade before that. It's about giving our economy and infrastructure a breather, not turning anyone away. So if you're nervous that voting Conservatives means importing Trump-like chaos, it doesn't. Our politics are built on different values, and Poilievre's plan is about fixing Canada, not mimicking Mar-a-Lago. Now, I want to touch more specifically on Pierre Poilievre. You probably heard him called a far-right villain, but let's talk about who he actually is. He was adopted, raised by teachers with a gay father and a Venezuelan immigrant wife. His daughter has special needs. His deputy prime minister, Melissa Lantsman, is a Jewish lesbian, and his cabinet includes the first turban-wearing Sikh in a top role. So this isn't the profile of a divider. It's a guy who reflects Canada's diversity in his own life. He's not here to tear down inclusion. He's here to fix what's broken, like a housing market that's pricing out your kids or taxes that eat half your paycheck. Poilievre's not perfect, but he's grounded in the struggles of everyday Canadians. He's asking tough questions about government waste and bad policies, not pushing some extreme ideology. This is the kind of leader that moderates should get behind. Now, let's look at the other side. After a decade of Liberal leadership, including Trudeau's sunny ways and Carney's brief cameo, are we better off? They promised compassion, inclusion, and a greener future, but look around. Rent is through the roof, groceries cost more than a car payment, and violent crime is up more than 50%. The carbon tax was supposed to save the planet, but we're the only country in the G7 who didn't reduce their carbon footprint, while the average house in a major city now costs well over $1 million. We're not more united or tolerant, we're stressed, divided, and relying on food banks like never before. The Liberals' ideas sound great on paper, equality, climate action, hugs all around, but in practice, they've left us struggling. And the worst part, their fans call themselves inclusive while shunning anyone who disagrees. I've been labeled a Trumper for questioning government spending. Friends of 20 years have told me to buzz off because I'm leaning conservative, but if that's their version of tolerance, I think I'll pass. Moderates, you deserve better than a government that preaches unity but practices division. So look, this election isn't about turning back the clock or fighting culture wars. It's about practical solutions for a country that's hurting. Poilievre's Conservatives aren't asking you to hate anyone. They're asking you to believe in a Canada where hard work pays off, where streets are safe, and everyone gets a fair shot. Moderate Canadians, I know you're cautious. You don't want to rock the boat or be labeled something that you're not. But democracy means you get to vote for what you believe in, not what your loud cousin on Facebook demands. So if you vote Liberal, NDP, or Green, I can respect that. We don't have to agree to be neighbors. But don't let manufactured fear or media lies stop you from considering the Conservative Party.
And well said, as usual. Blender News, thank you so much on that. And it just sounds like just common sense. And good morning, Penny. Thanks for being on. And yes, day of mourning. Oh my goodness. Uh-oh. Yeah, mourning for those who have lost their lives, for sure. I thought you were talking about the election at first, but yes, there's been some sad events happen in Canada over the weekend. And so, yes, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of those who have lost their lives tragically in those events. And if you haven't heard, just look at the breaking news on your news feeds and you can learn more about that. So switching over now to, he mentioned one of the things in there that I've, it's hard to talk about that, in our kind of climate these days, our political climate or social climate, is the idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our, in our society. Many of our companies have adopted diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think it's because of the sound of it. It sounds like, oh, of course you want to be diverse. Of course we want to be equal. Of course we want to include. But as Blender News has just reported, it's not really that. It's basically a Trojan horse that's anything but diverse, equal, or inclusive. Like it excludes anyone who doesn't think the same way as this particular group of people, and it can be racist even instead of anti-racist. And you say, how could DEI be racist? Well, that's why I have this next clip to play from John Stossel, who there's an actual activist in the United States who is counteracting the whole DEI movement that's been going on, and most corporations have adopted it. And we've even had a political candidate lose his job in Sudbury due to the fact that his party thinks the way we're going to basically shed light on what DEI actually is. So this is what his party, the PPC party, thinks about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And he lost his job because of this. So how is that inclusive when somebody doesn't go along with whatever this is, and they lose their jobs? It's not what I think of when I think of inclusion, is being fired, right?
Our country will be woke no longer.
President Trump ended federal DEI programs.
Ended the tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies.
But why? Diversity, equity, inclusion sound good, and companies sure bought into it.
At DuPont, we believe in embracing diverse talent.
Workers were pushed to label themselves by race and gender.
My pronouns are she and hers.
And companies also claimed
diversity and inclusion isn't just good for society, it's good for business.
We're so sick of the words diversity, equity, and inclusion because they don't mean what they pretend to mean.
Robbie Starbuck fights DEI programs simply by telling his social media followers what companies are doing.
Harley-Davidson, they support boys competing against your daughters in sports.
Unlike President Trump, who used an executive order to end federal DEI programs, Starbuck ends them by using the power of speech.
It's time to expose John Deere.
When he posted that John Deere encouraged preferred pronouns and held woke diversity trainings, Deere dropped its policies within a week. So have other companies. Toyota, Target, Walmart, why did they listen to you?
And we go to them like any other investigative journalist and we say, hey, we have a story we're working on.
Then, if they don't change, he goes public.
It is time to expose Toyota. They have gone totally woke. It is insane.
Toyota sponsored pride parades and divided workers into identity-based groups.
They separate employees into these groups based on what race they are or what type of sex they like to have.
1 week after he posted that, Toyota stopped sponsoring LGBTQ events and opened employee groups to all workers.
No more pride events, no more pride parades.
Toyota says that it will refocus its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. That comes after a campaign from activist Robbie Starbuck.
Coors Beer and Jack Daniels changed without you posting a thing.
Yeah.
Starbucks says all he had to do was start looking into these companies, and they dropped DEI policies.
Last week, we reached out to the CEO and president of Molson Coors.
Coors was mandating DEI trainings and donating to pride events. No more.
This page used to exist, and it no longer does. Now that page looks like this. Isn't it beautiful?
I like diversity. Inclusion is wonderful.
They sound warm and fuzzy. You know, it's why at the beginning it got a lot of buy-in from people. It's like, I want to be accepting of people around me. I want to include everybody. I don't want to be mean.
Yeah.
What it actually turned out to be in reality looked a lot more like crazy trainings, overtly racist hiring practices, diametrically opposed to the very warm, fuzzy-sounding words they try to sell.
Harley-Davidson is the latest company to drop diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives.
Harley-Davidson ignored Starbucks for a month, so he kept posting videos like these, calling Harley's CEO and its board members woke.
They held out the longest of any company. I think they should have listened. If you look at their numbers now, they're not doing so hot.
Now, I don't care if private companies tell employees, stand on your heads. Workers can quit, and customers have choices. But over the past few years at big companies, DEI mandates were so prevalent you couldn't avoid them. I'm a Chase Bank customer. It's run by a smart guy, Jamie Dimon. Last year he said, DEI is good for business, morally right, and we're quite good at it. Then on TV he was told,
Robbie Starbuck is out there going after companies. You now have a couple of activists going after your company.
Really? Not that I'm aware.
Are you aware of this?
Bring them on.
And so I went on CNBC and I brought it on and I was like, hey.
Guess who sponsored a Dylan Mulvaney event for children? JP Morgan.
They went and trained employees with the genderbread person.
This is it here.
It looks like something out of Kindergarten from Hell. And the most infantile, ridiculous thing ever. This is not something serious people or adults would use in a training.
It discusses gender identity being different from biological sex and sexual orientation.
And if you disagree with it, you're some sort of maniac or you're a bigot and you don't belong in the workplace. They had internship programs that were only for Black people or for Hispanics.
But it seems appropriate. It's reparations.
We don't have reparations in this country, last time I checked.
When Starbucks exposed JP Morgan's policies, Dimon said, I saw how we were spending money in some of this stupid and it really pissed me off.
Yep. So it's a quick turnaround, right?
Very quick. In my many years of reporting, I don't think I've ever seen changes this fast. And DEI activists are angry about it.
You're saying that you want to erase our existence.
Erase our existence.
What existed before DEI? Did Black people not exist before that? Like that, it's just nonsensical.
This will specifically harm women, African Americans, and Latinos.
What she's actually saying is that minorities are not going to be able to get jobs if the sole thing you're looking at is merit, which the way I was raised, you call that racism. I think she's being racist.
I think they're just saying that, look, we have a history of disadvantage. We were slaves in this country.
None of them were. I'm Cuban. I could say, you know, my family went through this, they went through that. I didn't go through it, you know. I'm not going to claim their disadvantage as my own disadvantage.
Use your wallet as a weapon, use your voice, and speak up.
We're not going to fall for the same stupid stuff anymore. We're going to judge people based on merit and on who they are, how they do their business every day, not on what they look like and their immutable characteristics, like their skin color.
So what do you think? Should we judge people based on merit and not by the color of their skin? Does that sound good to me? So that's not DEI then, right? So if you want to judge people on their character, like Martin Luther King said, and not by the color of their skin, that's what Martin Luther King said. So I don't know. If you want to disagree with him, then you agree with DEI. So there you go. That's the last segment that we have for today. Thanks for being with us. Get out and vote. It's voting day tomorrow, I guess. Hopefully we'll start the show with knowing what's going on and who's in charge of this country and what we can expect moving forward. We'll be unpacking the election tomorrow morning and then hopefully moving on with other things, right? Because a lot of people are kind of like done with this already. So we'll be back same time, same place on the same platforms, God willing, tomorrow. Remember to stay aware, like, share, take care, and stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Stay safe, everyone, today. Get out and vote, and we'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.